Welcome back to the Scarce Podcast. This is your host, Mike, and my co-host, Scott. How are you doing today, buddy?
Did we even... I don't know why. I just feel like we didn't really do... Did we do the intro the last one?
Yep, it's the same exact intro. How you doing today, buddy?
I just feel like it was
so...
Maybe it was just low energy. I just wasn't, paying attention.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit jazzed because we just recorded 6, and I'm a little bit jazzed up still.
Yeah,
when I recorded it, I
literally
just woken up when we were recording. So, I'm now awake. I've had more coffee. So...
Yeah, this episode's covering Halloween 20 years later, or is affectionately referred to as H2O.
Halloween water, boys. Let's go. I don't know why it
doesn't fucking really make sense, but
you would think it's H20 or something, but everyone refers to it as H2O, and it's just like, okay.
So
it's what it's been referred to for
years.
20 years for years. Yeah, for like over 20 years. So it's like
that's what we call it. And no one's gonna say like, oh, you seen H2O? Like if you're talking about a horror film, everyone's like, they know what they're talking about.
I've never seen a member of the cast or crew ever correct anybody.
I never hear anyone call it H20 either.
You would think it would be called H20. It'd make more sense. It would sound less goofy.
Yes.
But maybe they should have just called this movie Halloween 20 years later and left H2O out of it completely, but they didn't. So
maybe we should just have an actual fucking title. We should have an actual real fucking title that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean Halloween 20 years later is fine.
Yeah, it's not a very strong title. It sounds like a fucking monologue beginning to happen. It
is incredibly purely descriptive.
Yeah.
It is Halloween. It is 20 years later. That is all. I think they were going to call this like a Halloween, The Revenge of Laurie Strode or something. At one point.
It's a very 80s title, for sure.
Yeah. It would be very in line. But...
yeah.
They could have been, like really kind of self-referential, just call itself Halloween, the Return of Laurie Strode, like Halloween 4.
I would definitely say my biggest problem with the film might be its title. It's
not mine.
It's like, okay, this is stupid. Like, I hate having to refer to something as H2O just to talk about a movie, but it's whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's what it's called.
Yeah.
So, that's what we're going to refer to it as. I'm not going to sit here and say every time I say the title of the movie, Halloween 20 years later.
I'll never say H20 because it's like, if I'm talking about it,
now.
I'm talking about it with you or anybody else, I always say H2O. Always.
Yeah, it's just the way that the world has accepted the movie, so it's like at this point that's the title.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
And H2O kind of sets the standard for bringing back old recurring characters from the first movie, starting new, bringing back Laurie, going back to basics, and then there's a lot of H2O that gets brought back in 2018. A whole lot of it. It really feels like it's taking a lot of the same base elements and then just making a new plot following suit from that.
Basically, 2018 to me is instead of it being 20 years later, they're treating it, I mean, like they say it literally in dialogue, but it's like 40 years of pure trauma that's not being dealt with by the main character and how that affects her as a human being, versus 20, and she's kind of tried they say in dialogue in this movie she's tried to process these things. She's actually tried, whereas in 2018 she hasn't tried at all. Because they talk about how she's gone to shrinks, she's talked to people, she's done different types of therapy and stuff like that, but none of it works for her.
Most of this review is going to be a comparison, I feel, from 2018 to Halloween H2O.
Yeah, I mean they're both very fun, not fundamentally different because they both attack the same basic idea, but the way the manner in which they decide to tackle them is fundamentally different.
Yeah, I really liked H2O on rewatch. I like
this movie too.
I like Halloween 2018 for very different things. I think the camera work is inventive. I think just in general they have great cinematography. The music has a great atmosphere to it, and it's really bringing back the elements of what a slasher should be in a modern climate. Mm-hmm. But it's not the storytelling I love about the movie. I've always thought the story was just fitting a very modern climate, very much post these superhero films. How are we going to tell a story about these characters? And I think it's very exaggerated in its sense of realism, and I don't care because it's a horror movie and it's fun. It's as exaggerated as it can be, just as horror films in the 80s can be exaggerated, horror films in the 90s. I don't need a sense of realism. But I never thought it was like the best film ever made. I thought it was a great way to bring back the Halloween franchise, and it is what it is. Mm-hmm. Now looking at H2O, I mean, when I watched it when I was a teenager, I thought this is kind of boring. It's fun, it's fine. I like the final act, but it's boring, most of it. Going through it now as an adult, I really appreciate a lot more of it. This is a realistic version in a lot of senses of how character dynamics function. As a film that would come out by Miramax in a post-Scream, you would think it'd be more referential, things would be more in your face, the dialogue would be more, hey, remember this happened in this film, but it's not. I think a lot of that helps with the fact it isn't in Haddonfield. This is entirely in a different area, which really takes this character of Laurie Strode to trying to be different and separate herself, which is good and helpful to this character.
It also has divorced itself from 4, 5, and 6, so the only movies it has to reference are 1 and 2.
So there's a fun little piece of dialogue where, you know, she says how like she faked her death, and they show on paper that she faked her death with a car accident.
With a car crash, yes.
Which is referencing how she dies in a car crash in 4. And it doesn't mean it's linked with 4, 5, and 6, but if you wanted to, you don't have to jump through hoops to connect the films.
No, it's not particularly
which I think
reaching. I think that if you do, though, I think if you do connect those movies, you're making Laurie a worse character.
Well, yeah, because she ran out.
She abandoned her daughter and got a new son. So you intrinsically make her a worse character if you do that. But it's not impossible for you to think that. And if it was a franchise that continued with Laurie and didn't do what Resurrection did, you could have probably found a way to circle back and bring Jamie back. You'd have to disregard 6, which I don't think most people would complain with.
No.
But you could have circled around back and did that. Today, people want them to do that. Even today, you still see people on the internet talking about how like they should bring back, John and
it's impossible
her.
now.
I don't know how you do that.
You can't. The thing about this movie is that
you can't. Well, kills removes any possibility of that, especially.
They only reference the first movie throughout most of H2O, except for maybe 2 lines dealing with.
Obviously, brother. She's a brother, so obviously that's inherently a reference to. Also,
you watched him burn.
Yeah, watched him burn.
But besides that, like all the newspaper cutouts are all about the first movie.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, they're not even doing with 2 that much.
If you think about it too, because 2 takes place the same night, it's all the same movie technically.
Yeah. But all of them talk about like with the snippets saying how like he survived this gunfire. You'd expect someone to say fucking explosion at a hospital the other day, and none of them do. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So they're not really referencing 2 all that much, which is surprising.
Because 2's not good.
Narratively, no. And
2's fine. 2's fine.
2 is fine. I don't love 2. It's just fun. But
yeah,
I just think the thing about Miner as a director is he really showcases I don't have to shit on these other films, and I can make them work if you wanted them to, and I can leave it open. But this is my film, and we're talking about what I want to do. And that's why, as a director, he's always understood horror. He wants to do what he wants to do, while giving respect to previous things and leaving the door open, which works.
Yeah, I think the only aspect of because we're comparing a little bit, but the only aspect of what people are referring to as the H40, but Halloween 2018 is the only part of it I think is a little bit mean. Is just the whole like, oh, someone made that shit up about her being brother and sister with Michael.
You don't like the way it's brought up in the movie?
No, I think it's fine. I know a lot of people pick that line to death because they're like, oh, it's being so disrespectful to the other ones. It's just like, but like, really think about the Thorn trilogy, and do you really want them to really keep that canon? Like, no one wants that.
Oh, so that's the only line that really says like this could never be a part of it.
But also it's just like it's the only one that feels like disrespectful to somebody. I feel like somebody would be able to take that disrespectfully because the kids throw it out as like this little dumb thing that someone made up.
Yeah.
I don't care. because I think that the continuity for 2018, divorcing itself completely from the series and just being a direct sequel to 1, is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because I don't like them being brother and sister to begin with.
The worst part is with that line, you need it, though. You needed... That's the thing
You have
that
to
really
address
divorces
it.
1 from 2.
I think you have to address it. I think that I can see why some people would hear the way that they decided to address it and say it's a little bit too snarky. But
I can't see any other way of it going down, really.
yeah,
That's like respectful. How do you be respectful about that? You have to denounce something. You can't really denounce something respectfully. I really feel like.
yeah,
And have it narratively work without it feeling like you're trying to appease someone.
yeah.
So I could get that, but I never heard that line and said like, "Yo, this fucking shits on these movies." It's like, no, this just separates the movie. It needs to separate it.
I don't think it does either. I do understand why people would think so, because it's just like they do really like deliberately like, yeah, no, that's some stupid rumor someone made up. Like they just like shoo it away rather than saying, yeah, no, like somebody said that, but it's not really true, you know. So I mean I get it, but it's not.
I mean, it all helps with the fact it's teenagers.
They're teenagers. Yeah.
Like, no teenager's gonna be like, I understand what you're talking about, Jeff, exactly. But that is actually not true, and they are not brother and sister. I'd be like, oh, nice, you marked that bullet point off. Now, what's the next thing we have to cover in this movie?
Yeah.
It'd feel a lot more, like I said, like bullet points than an actual discussion or dialogue between people.
Yeah, I agree. We talked about this at work the other day about the realism of these movies contrasted against each other. I don't have a preference necessarily. I think that neither one to me is better than the other. It's just different because one of them is semi-adjusted Lori being an active parent versus a different take, which is Sarah Connor but drunker. But I don't think either one of them is particularly better or worse than the other one. I think they're both I like the fact that there's two versions of this. Both are distinct from each other, and both are well executed, in my opinion, at least. I just appreciate that, like, we have two versions of this that work.
I think when we're talking about at work, I set a bad precedent for how I was going about it. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying one is more realistic than the other. Like, H2O's is more realistic with the way it handles how people, not just like trauma victims or alcoholics react, but like, you said it better. It's Sarah Connor. Like, she creates a death trap home and raises a child soldier. If we're gonna be realistic about it, her fucking kid would be taken away by DCF and she'd be put in a mental institute because you can't do that. There's no way they would be together or have any interaction. This would be a big precedent, and like, those characters, it wouldn't work in reality. Like, we talk about like, oh, well, people do build fucking like apocalypse bunkers. Yes, fucking millionaires that have a crazy amount of money that are fucking on TLC saying like, you never know, I spent $30 million, but they're not fucking trauma victims that don't want to avoid their problems. They're just fucking lunatics with too much money. Like, if you base it down on realism, it doesn't work. To me, it doesn't work. It's got nothing to do with her just being like a bad parent. It's all these factors together where it's like, this is the shit I would write for like characters in my cartoon. And that's fine. Like, I'm not saying it's bad. It's just unrealistic to me. And that doesn't mean I don't like the movie. Yeah. The Death Trap house is fucking sick. It's the best shit in the movie. I love the child soldier mom because she's fucking awesome. She's my favorite character in the movie. It doesn't mean that I don't like these things, but like...
No, I know.
The way that they handle Jamie Lee Curtis's character in H2O, like, I just think it's something that could be dealt with in reality. Like, she does try to deal with her problems. She isn't over it. She has trouble with her son. They have issues with him leaving her. You know, like, the mom doesn't want the fucking bird to leave the nest. Mm-hmm. You know, her dating, who is obviously a goofy fucking guy, but he's a guidance counselor. He wants to help her. There's a lot of things that are based in reality that, like, you know, you and I have upbringings that we can understand that people have tough lives, and like how they deal with trauma and how they deal with shit is difficult. Yes. And you know, H2O does it really well. Am I saying it's a better movie? No, I just think it's done more realistically. But I don't think that's a bad thing for Halloween 2018 to not be realistic, because I don't think it wants to be realistic.
I mean, I think any movie, especially like in this series or even in the subgenre, like there's a certain amount of suspension of disbelief.
Yes.
And heightened qualities to movies. And I'm not going to argue that, you know, everything about 2018 is realistic, but I think that there's a certain degree of it where I'm like, I can definitely see people doing this, and I can get behind it, and I could be immersed in it, and it doesn't break my suspension of disbelief for the movie period at all.
I don't think it's too unrealistic to believe that some people could do it in a world like this Halloween universe. I'm not saying it's completely unbelievable that a world where a dude gets pumped with fucking 10 shotgun shells and gets up, some crazed fucking babysitter is gonna become a fucking Granny Sarah Connor. I'm not saying that it's not understandable for this universe. Yeah. I just think if we're basing down realism, the way these characters interact in H2O is so close to how I think things could actually happen with somebody in real life that I think, like, what I as a teenager could say is boring, I can respect to a new degree unbelievably as I'm older. Like, wow, this is really well handled for not just a script, but a script post-Scream in the 90s.
Yeah.
There's like 2 characters that are annoying in the movie that are referential, but Jamie Lee Curtis's character, fucking fantastic. Every time she's on screen, I'm like, that's a fucking great portrayal. The scene where the guidance counselor walks away and she fucking downs her Chardonnay and gets another glass, drinks the exact same amount. It's like, that's believable. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's kind of stuff, the kind of stuff that we've
dealt with.
We've seen.
Yeah, like,
yeah.
It's really, I don't know. I was just very surprised. And like I said, this has nothing to do as a slight against 2018. I know. I didn't even bring this up. I'd prefer to watch The Death Trap House over drinking a glass of Chardonnay.
Yeah, like, I didn't bring this up to call you out or anything. I was just, it was something we were talking about, and it's something we're eventually going to get to, so I wanted to get it out of the way.
I'd rather get it out of the way sooner rather than later.
I love 2018. Up until this review series, it's my second favorite Halloween movie. I adore it. It definitely, like, there's plenty of hoops you have to jump through to a degree.
Yes.
I just think I think that taking the death house out of the equation, I mean, it's part of it obviously, but the portrayal of Laurie Strode and her alcoholism, because she's alcoholic in both of these movies. I like them both. They're very different ends of the spectrum, because one of them is very much a functioning alcoholic and one of them is very much not a functioning alcoholic.
To me, it comes down to, this is why I think 2018's script functions so much as like a post-superhero world, because she's a non-functioning alcoholic, which means she has a tough time progressing with her life, and this is just a slasher movie. It just, a lot of times when it comes down to, like, that gets pushed to the side a lot of the time as soon as Michael Myers comes into place. Then it's just, this is the focus. We're not dealing with her alcoholism. It's just dealing with, let's fucking kill this guy.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense too, because it's like, why would you be thinking about that while you're chasing down somebody?
I think it makes sense narratively, but I also think, like, she's a fucking alcoholic. Like,
yeah,
she's not at all at that point where it's like, this is Michael focused. She's not at all worrying about, like, hey, like, I'm still not all there. Like, I still need something to help me get through this. I'm still fucking upset. I'm still traumatized. I need a drink. Like, that is pushed completely to the side, and it's now focused. You see this motherfucker? Let's kill him. We gotta finish this job.
Yeah,
but it's part of the narrative. It's important to the story to do that.
It's setting up a status quo. And obviously, because both of these movies have the same central idea, because they don't come out and say it in H2O. I almost said H20. In H2O, they don't come out and say it directly, but she's gone through all these different therapeutic routes. None of them work. The only answer for her
is killing Michael, and it's the same way in 2018. Yes. The only answer, she's an alcoholic. She's an even worse alcoholic, and she will not be free of these demons without
seeing Michael Myers die.
Yes.
Not better, not worse, just different to me. And I like both a lot, but there is something to be said about H2O with its relationship with John.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, I guess to a degree, Allison kind of supplants John for 2018 just because there's a closer relationship there and a caring, loving relationship there, whereas her daughter resents her. But that's something that, again, like carries through in Kills, where, you know, that kind of changes a bit.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's good character work in both of these.
I would not argue the character work in 2018 is bad.
Yeah.
Like I think the character work is what keeps the movie interesting.
Besides
the kills, obviously.
I think H2O really does a great job with Laurie, and kind of in a more because we're not as far removed from the situation in H2O, the level of pressure she's exerting on her son and all this stuff, you know, like I talked to you about it before we even watched the movie, like how much I really like the scene in the middle of you know, downtown where they're talking, and how he's just, you know, saying like you're smothering me, and, you know, you're taking out your trauma on me, and I'm done with it.
Yeah.
And it's just a really good scene.
It's
and both of
it's really well.
It's one of Hartnett's first movies.
Yeah, the actors
and he's awesome.
Are selling it really well. The best thing is the people walking by are turning to look at them just like people would in real life. Like, it feels like a conversation you've had with your parent when they just don't understand what you're going through, or understand that you also have your own problems.
Yeah.
And see, I would say the toughest thing is that, like, I wish the action almost was a bit more overblown in H2O, because sometimes it just feels like it's falling flat in the action department, but it's setting itself in such a realistic sense that, like, it has to. Like, if this action was too overblown, you're gonna say, like, hey, these elements feel like this came out of my broken household. I saw you guys just fucking make a body rip its jaw open and eat a toaster. I'd be like, that would never happen. So, like, the realistic sense of, like, the violence being toned down but being very strong when it hits, it works. There's not much I really should say the film should change, because it matters the way it's handling it, but maybe biasly I'd be like, yeah, I like to see a little bit more punch to its deaths.
I think it's interesting because intrinsically, like, there isn't very much like graphic violence in this movie.
No.
But there are a couple of really standout sequences.
Yes.
And shots, honestly, because, like, even like the opening has a young Joseph Gordon-Levitt in it.
He's good.
Man, he's so fucking good.
He's really good too. Like, he's charismatic as hell.
I love him so much. I love that actor. I want him in things again, but I know he's busy with Hit Record and all that stuff. But you know, like, you don't see it happen, but man, let me tell you what, the ice skate to the face is gnarly looking.
Yeah.
It's real gnarly. But the one that really gets me every time I watch it is the dumbwaiter scene.
It's awesome.
The smashes the fucking just breaks her goddamn leg in half.
It just reminds you Minor just gets tension so well.
Yeah, it's really well staged, and the acting is really strong. Like, all the actors are really good. The shot of one of the characters, I think it's the other boy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's like strung up with like a light inside of him or whatever, lighting him up.
The girl that has a light inside of her.
I thought it was him.
That was her.
I can't remember, but that was such a really good image. It kind of reminds me, like, I'm sure they didn't take it from it, but it reminds me of the whole, like, the cop with the flashlight through the head, like a jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah.
Look at that kind of idea. You know, there's some really cool stuff in this. It's really well directed. I mean, Miner's a really like a strong director in the horror space. You know, he made my favorite Friday movie for a reason. He's just really talented. He understands tension and kills and pacing, especially because this movie is relentless. It's 82 minutes or something. It's so short, and it's kind of funny because, like, it doesn't, from the opening to when Michael really shows up to the school, there's not a lot of violence in the movie. Like, there's a pretty decent stretch of time where no one dies, and it's not boring. like it's fun to watch. The characters, the dialogue is entertaining. You know, you're having a good time with these characters, and watching Lori deal with these things and getting more of a sense of where she's at in her life is consistently engrossing, and I think that's great.
I think it's so funny because like I don't care much for Laurie's character or think she needs to be as intrinsic to the Halloween franchise as most people do. Everyone has to say, like, you know, she's the first one, you know, it's Jamie Lee Curtis, she's essential to these films, and it's like, I've seen countless times where you could do films without her character and it still functions.
Yeah.
She's not as intrinsic as people say she really is, but when she's in the films, you know, she's great every single time. But this film, focusing as her character study over being a regular slasher, really benefits. Like, we've talked about how it's such like as a Halloween movie, this is so different than the rest because it's not in Haddonfield. It's totally disassociated with everything that was popular at that time. But it kind of works better because of that. Like, there is no fucking reason this character should be in Haddonfield anymore. Absolutely zero. And it benefits so well from having a new change of pace that the horror follows her.
Yeah.
So it really works with the story they're trying to tell, and you know, I'm just so surprised how strong this narrative really flows.
It's actually it's very poignant, and
Very.
You know, the finale of the movie is so just wall to wall. You know, it's just once Michael shows up, it's a chase from beginning to end, pretty much, to literally the final frame, and it's really well staged. Like, obviously, like the finale of like 2018 is much more like grandiose and has more elaborate kind of or bigger action than this does, but it doesn't matter because as long as the characters are strong and you're with them every step of the way, that's what matters the most. And you know, they do a great job with Laurie in this. They do a great job of selling her as, you know, at one time this, you know, functioning alcoholic who's not processing her trauma as well and taking it out on her kid, and badass heroine who's going to absolutely whip the shit out of Michael Myers. And she's never, you know, she never has the upper. Everyone says like she's just whipping his ass for the entire like third act of the movie, and that's not true.
No, she's running most of the movie.
She gets some really good hits in, and I think that's the good balance they do, is that it's not just, you know, wall to wall Laurie whooping the shit out of Michael Myers.
And it's not a fucking kung fu fight either.
Yeah, and it's also not Michael Myers completely decimating her either. Like it's a give and take. It's a very, very tense finale.
There's stuff I like with the attention to detail too, like when she's sleeping and she turns around, there's the scar on her shoulder from the first movie,
and she
got cut in the exact same spot,
and she looks at it and looks up at him, and she's just like, that's instant terror.
Yeah,
because she's instantly reliving what happened. It's really, there's some really, really good visual storytelling stuff in this movie that's better than most of this series deserves.
Yeah. I'll say now, with it being post Scream, there is referential stuff, and
not a ton. Not a ton that, not at least not a ton that bothers me.
I'm trying to reflect on it, to think more about it, to discuss some of it. And you know, there's the scene where she's running from Michael, she sees the closet, she goes fuck, and then she clearly uses that as a, oh yeah, you think I'm in the closet, and then Michael breaks in the closet, then he gets his ass kicked, and she runs away. You know, that's poignant. The scene in Haddonfield where the nurse goes to lock one door and turns on the other doors unlocked, she goes, fuck that, and she runs away. He's like, I'm not dealing with that. That's obviously a twist on how things used to obviously go. There's the I forgot about him, but I was playing it in the background when we were doing the review just to see some of the scenes, but there's the two cops talking about Michael Myers, and one of them's like, Michael's not fucking, he's dead, blah, 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 discussing about all this shit, like who'd want to see another Halloween and shit? Fuck that guy. I wish he fucking died.
See, I don't even remember that.
Yeah, because he's only in one scene. He's in one scene just complaining about, what happened to these characters? Maybe it was Michael Myers. It couldn't be Michael Myers. Like, I wish he fucking died.
Yeah.
I think this film could have benefited from more deaths that aren't intrinsic to the story. Like, just some few deaths that would just make the kill count a little bit higher made the thing more digestible for general audiences, maybe.
Yeah, I'm glad that they didn't do that though. I like the fact that pretty much everybody who dies in this movie is a character we know.
I think they should have killed the security guard.
They were originally going to.
I don't think the way he was going to die should have been it. I think that's
I
little
agree.
Stupid. I think Michael should have killed him.
It's kind of, I'm of two thoughts on that, because like at the same time, like, yeah, it's another body count. It's a character we enjoy watching, so watching him die would be sad, but like I'm glad he lives. I really like LL Cool J in this.
Oh, he's awesome in it.
The problem is, like, this sets up. We'll talk about it when we get to Resurrection, but it sets a precedent. Like, for some reason, they thought that the reason why this movie worked is because LL Cool J's in it, so they stuck Busta Rhymes in the next one. It's just like, okay.
So, yeah, I don't know. He's great in the movie, but like, you have to say to yourself, does him surviving and having his little "yo baby, I'm gonna make a thriller," does that benefit the end of the movie at all?
No, it doesn't. But
if you had a character that you like, because you know John's his friend, you know he's a good guy and means well. He has a wife that he loves. If he has a heart-wrenching death, like, it's gonna put more feeling into this movie. I feel like his death could have benefited, but
yeah.
I think the finale with him in it does make it feel more like this bitch came out in '98.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it, but I can understand why you would probably rather that. I don't
hate that he survives or anything. I like him. I'm glad he survives, but like, I think on paper it would probably be a little bit better if you killed him off too.
Maybe, yeah. There was supposed to be a whole nother subplot. There was supposed to be a detective subplot in the movie that was supposed to be in it. The guy who plays the main prisoner, like the preacher prisoner from Alien 3, Charles S. Dutton was going to play the detective.
Okay.
And they literally cut it the day before. They cut him completely out of the movie. But he was supposed to die. That would have been another death in the movie. I
think it helps not have the detective character. I feel like a subplot like that might derail a bit of the story with the runtime.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was supposed to more so create tension. Maybe he's figuring out that Lori faked her death.
Yeah.
And all that stuff, and creating tension kind of for her because she faked her death, which is, not legal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine that
which is definitely the most unrealistic part of the movie, is she just fakes her death and becomes a headmistress.
Yeah, that's the most like head scratching part. It's just like, so how did you do that? Like, I don't need everything to be explained to me, but like it's not just like you.
Also, she did it when she's like fucking 20. Like.
Yeah, and it's not like you faked your death and you're hiding in the mountains. You're in a pretty prestigious school
in California.
Yeah, so like
that's the most unrealistic part about the movie, where it's
that was my big question, because she's explaining it to the.
I faked my death. I'm like, you faked your death, and you're at a prominent, prestigious school.
Yeah, so that was kind of my thing. Is just like she's explaining it to the guidance counselor, and I'm like, okay, but like we're skipping over a little bit here. How?
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, it doesn't bother me that much. It's just it's just really funny.
Hole. It's just like so you're just gonna not mention that, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of like one of the easiest ways that screenwriters get around things. If you don't talk about it, you don't have to explain it. But yeah, I think we're talking about like the California school and stuff like that. I think that's gonna circle back to my biggest issue with the movie. It's just like, this doesn't feel like Halloween to me.
I like that because this movie isn't about Halloween; it's about Laurie.
Yeah, I mean, I get
that might be my biggest thing with how the newer films are supposed to be. Like, it's in Haddonfield, we're all dealing with Halloween, but this is also Laurie's story. There's too much going on, and it's not focused in a lot of the newer films. But this film, I love the Halloween atmosphere. Nothing's better than a nice fucking bit of orange in my trees, going from door to door with some pumpkins out. But this film benefits its story from being so disassociated from that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand. It's not even like just the visual aspect of it being in California, although that's part of it, because like obviously the first two were filmed in Pasadena, California, but they tried to make it look like it was like it was fall, but because it's just in California, it feels so weird. And it's not just the visual stuff, because that's obviously a part of it, but I don't like the music very much. Yeah, the main Halloween theme's fine. But this comes down to a lot of different things, because behind the scenes, John Ottman did the score for this movie, and he turned in his score and they didn't like it. So they had Marco Beltrami come in and add some music, and they still give Ottman the credit, but I'm not sure how much of this is actually his music. But I think a lot of the music is very distractingly not of this franchise. There's moments where I can think of distinct moments in the movie where I was completely sucked out of it because the music just did not correlate. Not just with this franchise, but with what was going on screen.
See, I don't agree, because I just feel like we're so used to like a certain type of stinger in this franchise because of what it was before. I think the fact that the music is so generally different helps the fact to set this film apart from the other Halloween films. And like, I like that it benefits from being so disassociated from the other one. Because when I associate Halloween music, I associate everything with Haddonfield. I associate with these general stingers to follow Michael. And this is not the same type of movie. And I think that's why I really do appreciate the fact that this is so separated.
You see, for me, the music is more intrinsically tied to Michael Myers. And with having that disassociation, I mean, like, even tracks are named after him. And having the disassociation between like having shots of Michael Myers on screen and having this odd music to me, like some of this music just does not correlate with the imagery that's on screen to me. I can think of several moments to me like that visually stick out in my mind where I'm watching it and I'm hearing the music and I'm like, this is weird. Like, this doesn't, and that may have a lot more to do with the fact that they didn't have a score that they liked, that they had completely ready for the movie, because they cut a bunch of Ottman's music out of it.
Yeah, I don't love the score for it. I would just say, as an idea, like if I was gonna fix some of the stuff in the movie, I would make the music in the Haddonfield scene with the nurse be some of the music from the original Halloween, and then I would do completely different things for the rest of the movie. I'd have a new, different track that would follow Michael, that would have a lot of punch to it, but be separated from it. Because the thing I like about this movie is that it isn't the return of Michael Myers, it isn't the revenge of Michael Myers, not the curse of Michael Myers. It's about Laurie. Yep. And this is what this film should be in focusing on, and not just what stinger is Michael going to have next, or what's going to be following him. Because we're not really following him as much as we're trying to watch Laurie and her family survive this altercation.
Yeah, I agree. I just think that...
I don't think the music is good, though.
I think that there's a musical identity, and I'm not just looking for them. They're just like, oh, John Ottman, do a new version of this track from Halloween. Like, I don't need the same exact music over and over again. But the actual choices, it doesn't sound like it's a movie in this franchise to me, outside of the main theme. It feels like Ottman was just doing his own thing, which to a degree is fine. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't want him to just copy Carpenter or Howarth, but I feel like if you're making a movie within a franchise, an established franchise, there is a certain degree of consistency. I know that this is divorcing itself from 4 movies technically, if you count 3. But there is a certain amount of, you know, you're supposed to pay not tribute, but you're supposed to act within the framework of this franchise. And I feel like the score really just doesn't do that. And it kind of just, they cobbled something together in certain degrees. I mean, because they did to a degree, but that's one of the things that takes me out of the movie a little bit sometimes. That's not always. Like, some of the music's pretty good. I mean, I think Ottman's version of the Halloween theme is really good. It's different. It's interesting. But, you know, maybe if I saw the movie with just Ottman's score instead of this hodgepodge that they stuck together, maybe it would feel more consistent at least.
Yeah.
But because of that lack of consistency, it's even worse, more apparent. But yeah, I mean, the whole moving to California thing, like, I get why they did it, especially because you're literally faking your death and running from somebody. It does inherently, for me, you know, like, from a visual aspect, it does feel very different, which is good and bad, because, you know, we've seen, you know, I didn't want this to be shot in Salt Lake City again, because we've seen that for the past 3 movies. But I don't know, it feels weird to watch a Halloween movie without that kind of like autumn feel to it. And I get why it doesn't have it, because why would she be still in Haddonfield? It makes no sense.
Well, I
But-
think it benefits even more so from the fact that it is in California because she hates Halloween. She would want nothing to remind her of Halloween. If you're gonna go in a place where your season isn't changing, it makes sense for someone like her.
Yeah.
It feels so. See that's why like I don't like. It's never gonna be my favorite Halloween movie, but I respect the hell out of the choices for it because it separates this film to feel like everything done in it has such a narrative purpose behind it. Like, I don't love the score at all, but I think the score being so separated from the other Halloween franchises, or Halloween films in the franchise, is because we need to focus on Laurie and not focus on Michael. The fact that we're in an area that has nothing to resemble Halloween is to show why the fuck would Laurie want to be reminded at all about Halloween? We're not even seeing kids in costumes, which...
Here we are.
Oh yeah, well you do down the street for a little bit, but like you're not. It's not in the foreground really.
It's kind of interesting too. Cause, well, they run into her, but it is kind of interesting too because it's like you have a little moment that actually kind of reminds me of one of my favorite moments in the movie when she's downtown and she sees the kids trick or treating. And it's very reminiscent of the scene where she's watching the kids trick or treating in the first movie.
Yeah.
She even has like a little smile come across her face. And she's watching these kids trick or treating. So it's like it's really bizarre because it's like it's something that makes her happy, but it's immediately something that reminds her of her past.
Yeah,
it's really strong. It's a good image.
There's so much about the thought put into this movie that I feel like if you're in her shoes, what would you want to do? That I think is just really they put their time and thought into it, which is cool, and I really respect the hell out of that. Like I said, it's not my favorite. I'm never gonna like this more than Halloween 4 in any realm of possibility, but if we're gonna focus on a character like Laurie Strode and that's gonna be the focus of the film, this is the way to do it. And I think they did a bang up job with it, and I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I'm definitely not trying to say that this like that ruins the movie or anything for me, but it is something. It just feels so in the middle of this franchise, not middle of this franchise, but at this stage in the franchise, it feels like such a departure.
Yes.
I mean, like it makes sense in context of the narrative. It's just it is really weird as a Halloween movie to see blatantly California and being so audibly divorced from the franchise, and like again doesn't tank it. It's just it's one thing that does kind of whenever I watch the movie I'm like I kind of wish this was a little bit more Halloween-y, even if it was just a little bit different with the tracks or something, but it is what it is. It's a really good movie. It's a really strong film. The performances are all really good.
The weakest performance to me is Michael. Yeah. I think the biggest problem with this film, to me personally, is that the Michael Myers that is in this film does not have any demeanor that seems like he's more than human. This Michael does just feel like some asshole.
No ask.
He walks like a fucking like peg-legged penguin as he fucking marches towards someone. And I'm just like, hey, this would be a much better movie with somebody giving a much stronger presence to this character.
I think even because it's something we're definitely going to have to talk about. A big part for me for why it's like it's really difficult to watch this Michael sometimes is the masks.
Yeah.
And I say the masks because there's fucking like 4 of them. And from scene, not just scene to scene, but almost shot to shot, they change. It's very distracting.
I don't think I really like. I don't really like. I might like say like it's all right, but I don't really like any of them.
There's one of them, like in a couple shots, they have one that's kind of cool, but like it's barely in the movie. The quote unquote main mask that they have for the movie.
He's goofy.
The one that he basically he comes up to the window and sees Laurie in. Oh my lord.
It's fucking stupid.
It's so bad. The fucking eyes are so huge. You can see his eyes so clearly. And like I guess some people think like to a degree it's like oh man, like you can really see his emotions. Like you shouldn't, in my opinion. You should not see the whole point is he should not be human. And I think it takes away from the movie for him to be more human. Like there's scenes in the movie with Michael that I really liked. I like it. I like the shots of him like walking around the shadows of the school, and the scene in the cafeteria or the whatever the fuck you would call it, where he's flipping the tables. I think is really strong.
See,
But
I can understand that viewpoint, but I think my favorite stuff about Michael Myers in the franchise was he struggles with humanity. I like the stuff in 5 where he reaches out and he kind of takes his mask off. I like the scene at the end where he reaches out to Laurie. The point is, he's supposed to be a monster. We all want to see him as a monster. Loomis's entire ideology is that he's not human, he's a monster. But Loomis has an extreme perspective. And the coolest thing about Michael to me is that he's 99% monster, but when you give him a sliver of humanity, it makes things feel more real and more upsetting, more disastrous. And it's like, well, there's a little bit more behind him just being a senseless killer. That's even scarier than him just being a senseless killer, is that anybody could somewhat become a senseless killer.
see, I've never viewed him as a senseless killer. I've always viewed him as just a manifestation of evil, and he's, I mean, literally the boogeyman. And I think that is more scary. And I think that it's the stuff at the end with him reaching out to her. I think that's good, but I think the reason why it's good is because they cut back to him with this malicious look in his eyes.
Yeah.
Not because he's actually reaching out to his sister.
No, 100%. The reason it works is because you don't know.
It's like he's reaching for one last.
He's not saying like kill. You know, it's like.
Yeah, it's like he's reaching out for one last kill.
Yeah.
And I think that's why that works for me.
100%.
But I do think that one of my biggest pet peeves with Michael is when I can see his eyes.
I don't mind it in Resurrection. I really don't.
I don't even.
I actually like the mask in Resurrection. There's some.
Yeah, but I don't remember you seeing his eyeballs
all the time.
I don't remember. I haven't seen the movie in so long.
Very clearly, yeah.
I distinctly choose not to watch the movie.
I mean, you could say it's even on paper, like realistically, like he's got the black grease paint around his eyes and he has a mask over it.
Oh, that's even worse.
So it's like Batman.
He's deliberately choosing to. That's even worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's also the way that he's lit sometimes too. Like having the light be so clear of his face.
The lighting on his face is.
So it's like that's really bothersome to me.
But
I don't want to see that.
I understand that, but as this film is talking about Laurie's humanity, it definitely makes sense to make Michael more real in this movie, make him more human. Like in this film, he is her brother. The dilemma, like on paper, when she says like, "Oh yeah, you know, Michael killed my sister," that really does mean nothing to her in the first two movies. She doesn't fucking know her sister. She's a baby. Yeah. But on paper, it's like, oh, you know, he killed my sister. This is, you know, I'm just another one of the fucking family to be slaughtered by my brother. If you watch the movies, it fucking doesn't matter. She doesn't fucking know fucking Judith Myers.
Actually, the thing that gets me about that scene is actually like the realization from her, because they don't even talk about it in 2. Michael comes after her when she turns 17, when she's 17 years old. Judith was 17.
Yep.
And the reason why he's come back is because
John is 17.
John is 17. And that's like, I hadn't seen the movie in a while, I guess, but like I didn't even think about that. It's just like, it's clever. That is a very, very small way of giving some kind of little bit of motive.
Yeah. Is it coincidental? Who knows?
Yes. That is awesome. Why I like it. That is why I like it, though. I don't like explicit motive for Michael, which is why the whole brother-sister thing bothers me.
But imagine he sees Johnny goes... he's like, it's your birthday. Like, that'd be fucking hilarious.
He just walks up to the window. He just stands there and looks at it, and it's the previous year, and he just sees the 16 on the birthday cake. He's like, God damn it, I gotta go home.
Way funnier. How unfortunate would it be that John's actual birthday is on Halloween?
Yeah.
Like, they don't say it's Halloween Day. They say they're getting ready for Halloween.
Well, it says Halloween. It says October 31st, Halloween.
Is that the day where they go on the trip, though? Because there's multiple days in this movie.
Yeah, I know. I'm fairly certain that... Because
it's not John's birthday, though. John is 17. He didn't just turn 17 in the film.
No, because it was a couple months. Because he said he got the card late.
Yeah. So
his dad sent it late.
His birthday isn't on Halloween, but like,
no, but he got the card
funny would it be?
He got the card on Halloween.
Like, how funny would it be? Like Like, you're going into labor. She goes, fuck of all days. Like, that'd be fucking hilarious.
I think that's kind of like the cool thing. He got the card on Halloween coincidentally.
Yes.
Which is inherently kind of like a really fucked up thing. You imagine, like, she talks so badly about
how funny would it be though? Like,
but
the card
like
is
she
not
talks
actually
so
from his dad. It's from Michael. He goes, from Uncle Dad. Like,
could you imagine? It's from Uncle
it's
Michael,
like,
and there's
he
just
killed
like
his dad.
there's a stick figure of him stabbing John.
Yeah.
I just think, like, they talk so badly about his dad in the movie. Imagine, like, it would be like make him even worse that he sent it deliberately so it would arrive on Halloween.
Yeah.
That'd be fucked. I mean, that's me inserting something into it, but that'd be really fucked. I like that it has like a little subtle motive thing to it.
Yeah.
It's not overt. It's not like deliberately stating some kind of like elaborate
ulterior motive for Michael.
Yeah. It's just like that. That's the kind of stuff I can get behind it, and I can be okay with.
That's why as Minor gets it, man. He's like, I'm not answering shit. I'm just bringing in more questions. That's the cool stuff. Like,
yeah.
On paper, H2O was such an interesting, well thought out, well done movie, and I just think it's so fucking crazy how much style and substance they put into this fucking shitty 98 movie. Like,
well, this was originally gonna be a direct-to-video movie. The guy who's the guy he's still credited as the writer, Zappia. He was originally commissioned to do this movie. This franchise was going to go to direct-to-video.
Yeah.
He was going to do a movie. It was called Two Faces of Evil, and it had the idea of, the prep school. It was an all-girls prep school, and it had the detective subplot, and Michael was coming back, and didn't have Laurie in it. I think it actually followed Loomis had a kid, which was based off of something that was actually there was he originally had a wife. He was gonna there was a line that was deleted, or a scene that was deleted, where he calls his wife on the phone. So they were supposed to set that was supposed to be something that was a reference to something that was supposed to be in one of the movies.
Yeah.
But he was supposed to have a son, Loomis, and there was actually like a bunch of cool sequences in the movie. Like there's a gym floor that opens up into a pool, and somebody was gonna get killed in the pool and left in there, and then during the third act the pool would open up and you'd find the dead body and stuff like that. There's some kind of cool stuff in it. But there was also a Hannibal Lecter character, so there was a bunch of weird things that happened. I am so glad
this piece of shit wasn't me.
Yeah, but they came to Zappy and said, hey, good news, bad news.
Sucks.
Bad news, we're not making your movie. He's like, okay, what's the good news? He's like, Jamie Lee wants to come back for a 20th anniversary version, and we're going to have you write the script for it. And it's going to get a theatrical release, and we're bumping the budget up. And he's like, oh, okay. So they kept the prep school idea, and they just made it Laurie instead, and brought John in. So that's kind of how this movie came about.
Pretty neat.
It's neat. It is by the grace of God that this fucking franchise did not hit direct-to-video.
Yeah.
And if it did hit direct-to-video, we wouldn't have got 2018 and Kills. I don't think this franchise would have ever recovered.
I think the only thing that's really left to discuss about is, I mean, the finale is great. We don't have to discuss much more, but the ending is what I was going to bring up.
Yeah, the end of the franchise.
So this is why I want to talk about the ending too, because the fucking coolest shit I think Jamie Lee Curtis has ever done as Laurie Strode is just steal an ambulance, put him in it, and say, I'm gonna fucking kill him. Like, the death house is cool, but like,
I'm gonna make sure he's dead.
Yeah, I just fucking love that.
I just think it's really cool.
Fucking drives it off, fucking gets sandwiched between a tree and an ambulance, and she just probably chops his fucking head off.
It's probably the most overblown moment in the movie is her driving the van down a hill and rolling it. It's the craziest moment. And her falling out of the van as it's rolling.
Yeah.
That's probably the most crazy thing that happens.
Because, like, watching it, for some reason I remembered, like, oh, Maybe she just fucking like stops the car. He gets out and she pins him to a tree. But when the thing fucking flew off and started rolling down a hill, I'm like, I did not remember this.
Oh, I definitely remember that part.
Then he gets pinned. She fucking chops his head off. It's like, now that is a fucking finale.
Well, it's like it has that moment where you're like, oh my god, is she gonna be stupid? Is she gonna fucking embrace this guy? And then she just completely lobs his head off. And it's just like it is such a great ending to the series.
Yeah, I love because we talked about
there's no other movie.
Well,
never happened.
Hold on. I love the reaching out scene because we talk about is Michael reaching out, being like, oh yeah, you know, maybe he realized that's his sister, or maybe it's one last kill. The reason I like Jamie Lee Curtis reaching out is because is she reaching out because it's her brother, or is she reaching out because this is finally the resolution to her trauma after all these years and she doesn't know how to handle it. There's so much you can talk about how these characters are finally reacting, and it's the final straw. It's the end for both of them. Boom.
Yeah.
I just think it's so fucking well done and poetic.
I think it's great.
But Resurrection.
Nope, fan fiction. Yep.
Well, I want to bring it up because Resurrection makes it a fucking paramedic.
Yep.
His tongue gets chopped out, or if he can't.
No, he gets his larynx crushed.
Larynx crushed. Okay. As bad as it is, like, he has to be like fucking the Flash to crush his larynx and fucking switch out super fast.
Not even just that though. Like, you gotta think about it. Like, the only thing in that scene that really ties me, like, yes, it could definitely be somebody else and not Michael, is when he like grabs the mask.
That's the thing, like, rewatching
but the problem is, why wouldn't he take the mask off?
Yeah, I don't know, dude.
That's how you know that it wasn't really supposed to be that.
100%. But like, when he felt the mask and then reached out, I'm like, you know, that kind of works a little bit. It's not bad. But
that's so. Here's the thing. I just thought about this on the spot. If you really think about it, with 1978. She rips someone comes back and kills. They rip his mask off, and the first thing he does, he doesn't try to kill her. The first thing he does is he puts his mask back on. He's checking to make sure he has his mask on.
Yeah.
He's not surprised he has a mask on. He's checking to make sure he has his mask on. That's why. But they 100%.
It makes sense why he would reach for his mask.
But they just rewrite it in the fan fiction ass sequel, saying, he grabbed his mask because, oh my god, I'm in a mask. Oh my god, I'm not Michael Myers. What's going on? It's just like, why would you not take the mask? She knows what he looks like. Why would you not take the fucking mask off? Why would you keep the mask?
Bro.
No, yeah, okay.
He's super glued it, dude.
That Gorilla Glue though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like this ending is so good.
Oh, it's perfect.
It is so fucking anger-inducing that they had to just ruin it.
Halloween H2O would have been the perfect finale. Perfect.
It is literally a perfect ending.
Yes.
She ends the person who has had a reign of terror over her for 20 years. It ends with this poetic, acknowledgement of each other, and it's just a swift death. Why the fuck did that have to not be the ending? Like, I know why it is. It's money. I get it, but and Mustafa Akkad was all, we gotta leave every movie open for a continuation because this is my franchise. But it's just like it's so. I think Miner shot the explanation scene for Resurrection because that was like, it's like, yeah, this is how I want to end the movie, and Mustafa's like, but I want a franchise to continue, so I need you to not do that. And he's like, okay, well, this is the ending of the movie. I'll film you something for a sequel.
Yeah.
But as far as I'm concerned, we're done. It's just like, it's just like, I don't like headcanon because it's like things exist, man. They just exist. I just really
was the ending of this series.
it's just like I can't stomach the fact that Resurrection is actually canon with this version of the franchise. Like, it doesn't end with H20.
It sure. I mean, Resurrection's also like the worst fucking ending for any of the movies.
Well, was it supposed to be the ending?
I know, it's just a fucking terrible ending.
It's just like, oh my god, his face got melted into his mask. Oh, now we got another one. Now we're gonna have another one with his face melted into his mask, which we already should have had after 2.
Yeah.
But, and then magically in 5, his face is perfect.
Yeah, so any other final thoughts you want to give on H2O and then final score?
I mean, it's not really like a developed thought, but like it's just like we talked about the masks, but the CGI mask is horrendous.
It's funny. It's really funny when it comes up.
It's really funny to see it because it's just like it just looks so fucking terrible, man. And I remember like I was watching something, they're like, yeah, don't worry about it. We'll put a CGI mask on. It'll look great. CGI has
so bad.
So far in the past couple of years. Yikes, big yikes. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I really like this movie a lot. It's always entertaining. It's so well paced. It's so short. You blink and 20 minutes is gone, just like 4. It's really good. I like it a lot. I wish it was a little bit more Halloween-y, but it is what it is. I get it. I get why it's not. But yeah, that's all I really have to say.
What's your score on it?
8.
I think, well, after rewatching these,
8.5, maybe.
H2O is my third favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, H2O is 100% my third favorite.
My third favorite's Halloween 2018. My
Yeah.
fourth favorite's Halloween 3. I like Halloween 3 more than this.
I definitely don't like Halloween 3 more than this. No way.
It is a bit different though, because like you also are considering a movie that's completely out of. It has nothing to do with this franchise.
Oh, just as a movie, I don't like Halloween 3 more than this, though.
I adore Halloween 3.
I think Halloween 3 can be very boring. I think some things are just like whatever. I like Tom Atkins, but besides that, there's not a... I think the atmosphere is cool, but there's not a whole lot going for it for me to keep it super interested. I think Halloween 3 is a good movie. I think it's got a lot of unjust hate for it, but this is such a strong narrative, intrinsically like personal story that they kind of just nailed as far as the script's considered every single time. And I'm just so surprised how well thought out this movie was and how good it turned out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say that H2O is a better film than 3 for sure.
Yeah.
I feel
H2O is a better film than Halloween 4 also, but
it's unfair to H2O, but the fact that Resurrection is connected to it does hurt this movie.
Standalone movie. I don't give a shit about Resurrection.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but it's such a direct sequel, and it's so intrinsically tied to it and affects the way that the strongest aspect of this movie, one of the strongest aspects of it, is the handling of Laurie and the finale, and Resurrection completely circumvents those, in my opinion. And if this was the end, it would be probably 2, probably number 2. It's that good, but
I just cannot. Like, every film has its own ending to it. Like, that's like saying Halloween 4 isn't as good because of what happens in Halloween 5. That's like saying Rachel isn't important in 4 because 5 she's a fucking like male gaze head character. Like, I get what you're saying. Like, Resurrection it ruins the ending of H2O, but it's the same way, 6 ruins the character of Jamie Lloyd, 5 ruins the character of Rachel, but it doesn't make me like those films any less as standalone films. I can appreciate H2O as a film on its own and say this movie is fucking awesome. There's definitely problems. Michael Myers is not very good. Some of the music is boring. Sometimes I feel like there's not as much agency as there could be. Maybe it could use another death with more personal meaning. Not much referential stuff, but there's only one character that can be annoying. But I just think as a narrative film, holy shit does it kick ass. And it's the film that I don't need for a character like Laurie, but I'm glad I have. And I just fucking loved every second of it. If I had to give it a score, I'd probably give it an 8.5. I want to give it like a 9 out of... I might give it a 9 out of 10. But I still like 4 more biasly because I love the character work in 4. And nothing's going to beat the first Halloween. I like Halloween 2018 just a little bit less than H2O.
4 is also like the intrinsically, like I feel like that 80s feel definitely.
Yeah, it's like it's a biased thing. Like you just love a nice slasher film in the 80s.
Yeah, and also just like obviously Halloween, the first one came out in '78, but intrinsically, I think most people when they think of Halloween, I feel like they kind of tie it to the '80s, even though like it's gone for a good chunk of the '80s.
Yeah.
Until the end, but I think that the '80s feel of part 4 is really aids in that fun but also spooky atmosphere that like this movie is very fun.
Yes.
It's very slick, like a '90s movie in cinematography and lighting. So it intrinsically feels like kind of again divorced from. It's the same thing that taking out the equation the quality of Resurrection, but Resurrection has that kind of glossy late '90s 2000s feel to it that feels just kind of odd to me. Not that this movie looks bad at all.
No, it's just fitting of the decade.
Yeah, it's very much a '90s movie, and that's fine.
Yeah.
It's a post-Scream movie, even though it doesn't embrace the stuff that Scream embraces nearly as much. But yeah, I really like this movie. I think it's fucking awesome, and every time I watch it, I have a great time with it.
Definitely went up in my rankings. Definitely had a lot better of a time than I thought I was gonna, and I'm glad. I'm definitely not excited to watch the next one.
Yeah, I can't say I'm particularly excited to watch it, but
What are you looking forward to the most?
I couldn't tell you.
You like it?
That actually looks worse in person. Well, in person.
It's fucking funny, dude.
That mask actually looks worse.
He's got gray hair, bro.
He's an old man.
He's got fucking. Why does he have gray hair? It's a fucking mask. It's not his head.
I don't know.
I put it on Nick, dude. It fits Nick's head really well.
Yeah. Oh, it just looks so doofy.
Dude, it is not even comparable to how.
I don't know why. I don't know what it is, man. But like, I understand that they all like a bunch of them that like they have eyebrows, but like for some reason on the Resurrection mask, my attention is drawn directly to the fucking eyebrows.
I don't understand why.
I don't know. It just looks. I don't know.
Almost all of them have eyebrows.
Maybe it's because of just like the way. It's the combination of it had the eyebrows and just the shape of the mask. Like I have nothing else. My eyes drawn to nothing else. Maybe his schnoz. I don't know, but
yeah, I'm always drawn to like his upper lip because it's like really far down from his nose.
Oh yeah, it does. He does have a pretty decently long upper lip.
Yeah, that's what I always think of. I don't care about the eyebrows because like most of them have eyebrows and they all look kind of weird.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just. I don't know. It looks weird to me. I don't know why. Don't know why. They all have fucking eyebrows.
So yeah, you ready for that next week?
No, I'm not. I'm just not looking forward to it. But
time.
At least at this point, I think we're gonna call it at Resurrection, and we're gonna probably cover the Rob Zombie ones at a later date.
Yeah, probably.
Especially because after watching Resurrection, I'm probably not gonna want to touch Halloween for a while.
I'm pretty done with this. I was excited to go through a lot of these.
It's not even like it's done with it. It's just like I know Resurrection is just gonna upset me. So I hope it's at least entertaining to be like, wow, this is bad. I might have to slap back a couple cold ones for this one.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be very fun. All right. Well, we'll find out next week, and we'll see how that goes. So, see you for Resurrection, because I'm sure it's going to be, at the very least, a very long talking point.
It'll be interesting.
So, I'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.